I am Adeline, and today I am redesigning this lamp shade. It's a fine lampshade. The only problem is when I try to turn on the lamp, which is part of what I'd like to be able to do. When I turn on the lamp, it's got these broken pieces of plastic. It's an eyesore, and I don't want it to be an eyesore. So I'm going to fix it, and I'll show you how to fix it. What I'm going to need is aluminum foil, fabric, scissors, duct tape, and an iron. The tin foil is going to go around all of the shade. The duct tape is going to hold it in place. When I am done, I will not be able to have my hand make this cool effect because the tin foil is going to block out all the light that would be coming through the lampshade. Not preferable, but the other alternative that is easiest is to buy a new lampshade, and I don't want to do that. After I cover it with tin foil, I will be cutting these strips of fabric out of upholstery fabric. You can use pretty much anything. Be careful with what you're using because you have to keep in mind it's going to get a little warm. It's right next to a light. The way the light will be dispersed after I do that is it's going to be dispersed down, it'll be dispersed up. It is a good look for a warm environment, something cozier. It will limit how much light it emits, but that's going to be okay because it won't have a broken lampshade anymore. Or it will, but you won't know. The strips of fabric that I cut, I'm going to be sewing together so that I have enough length to wrap over the entire piece. What you can do if you don't have a sewing machine is you could glue it. I wouldn't. You could safety pin it. I might. Or if you have a large enough piece of fabric, you can cut it so that it is in a circle, which I'm going to demonstrate on a piece of paper for you because words fail me, and a piece of paper will really explain what I'm talking about better. So let me show you that. So as demonstrated on this piece of paper, I cut it in a spiral, so it'll be one long strip. If it were my fabric piece, I would then trim the corners, and following that, I would fold inward on itself to iron in order to make sure the frayed edges don't show. If the kind of fabric you have doesn't have fraying, you don't have to do that step. You can just go ahead and wrap it from there. I welcome suggestions on what else you could use to wrap the lampshade with. I'm interested to hear what ideas other people might have. I have gotten a number of pieces of duct tape that I have taped myself so that I don't have to be handling aluminum foil while I'm trying to get pieces of duct tape out, and I'll have easy access. The next part's as simple as just wrapping the lampshade. I say simple and then watch me struggle. Ta-da! Imperfect, just like I like it. Now you can see how the light distribution is going to be as it comes down or up. Distribution, disbursement. Well, as you see, you can no longer see where there is a piece of broken plastic, but this is not beautiful. Unless this is what you want, then it's great. If you wanted to use tinfoil alone, I would recommend crinkling it and then rolling it out flat again so that you had it look more uniform. And that could actually be kind of a cool look, or you could do that and then spray paint it. Might also be a kind of neat look that I've considered doing myself. Here is a piece that was crumpled and then flattened out again. If I spray painted that, it would be a pretty neat effect. But that's not what I'm doing today. I'm going to cut fabric now. Now that I have the tinfoil wrapped around my lampshade, it's time to cut my fabric. I'm using this upholstery fabric with stripes, making a clear delineation to show me where I want to cut. It means I don't have to mark up the fabric because I can just stay in the trough of the line. I'm about to sneeze. I can feel it coming. Uh, my fabric is not going to fray after all. I thought that it would, but it won't. So I don't need to iron it inward. And if you didn't want to iron it inward, if you used enough, you could fold it into itself so it would just be hidden as you wrap it. If you don't have a sewing machine or safety pins or don't want to use that method to have the strips come together and don't want to do this circular thing, stapler. You'd take two edges, put them right side together, staple, 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 and then that would create a seam. You don't want to do it in clothing because staples are not fun in clothing, but it would work in this instance just fine. If I didn't have my sewing machine set up, I might just use the staple method. I'm a little tempted to anyway. If you want to stop the fraying with glue, you can do that. School glue and a little water. Don't use anything that you don't want to be heated, like super glue. Not that the heat's going to be extreme, but it's a bad idea. So don't do bad ideas. There's nothing really about this that is hard. It's a little time consuming, but that lamp cost me $2. Maybe I already said that, but it cost me $2 and it came with the shade and the light bulb. For $2, that's a great deal. This fabric, this was not all of what I bought, but this fabric cost $15 for a roll of it, and it's a really high quality for $15. I get mine usually either at Habitat for Humanity is where I got this. There's also Austin Creative Reuse, and if you're not in Austin, you may have a creative reuse center near you. You can search a directory of them. Just enter the search term creative reuse store, and that should pull up the national directory. They are like a thrift store for crafts, and they have a ton of things. A great deal of what I get comes from there if it doesn't come from Habitat for Humanity. In this case, my fabric and my lamp came from Habitat for Humanity. I got the aluminum foil on Amazon though. I'll keep cutting until I have enough strips, and then I'll either go to the sewing machine or maybe I will take it to the stapler. Now I'm going to piece the strips together. Normally for a seam I would put the two right sides together and then sew. When I open it up, it would just look like a seam. You could use a stapler to do this. That would be the easiest way most likely. And I'm only going to do a couple together at a time because it's a lot to work with. I'm going to fix it to the inside of the lamp when I get to places that I can do that, or cut it if I need to, so that I will only look like I'm having a continuous line from the outside. To avoid getting bulk or too much bulk, instead of putting right sides together and doing a regular traditional seam, I'm going to actually stack these on top of each other, nearly like they were end to end, but then overlapping one a bit, and I'm going to do a straight stitch just right down for this project and these strips. I think it's going to look good and avoid bulk, which I want to avoid the bulkiness. My sewing machine settings are at the length 3, 0 width. My tension's at 4, but I think lower would normally be better for upholstery fabric. However, I've tested this and this worked. And as I said, I'm doing a straight stitch. Now I've got my pieces together to go mummify my lampshade shortly, and I'm going to trim the excess thread on here. It's really going to blend in, so I'm not being a perfectionist because I practice being an imperfectionist rather than disappoint myself all the time. But in any case, I think it's a good idea to do this. Even if they won't stand out much, they might get a bit in the way as I'm trying to wrap things. Back at the lamp, I'm going to just wrap like I would wrap a lamp. A mummy, I don't know. You'll get a feel for it as you do it, or you can watch me and then get a feel for how it's done. How this looks on the outside is good, but how it looks on the inside is pretty rough. As you can see on the inside, the sections are not smoothed down like they are on the outside, and it's because of the wires here. So I'm going to make some cuts to help the fabric glide down a little better, and you can do that as well. It'll of course be entirely dependent on your specific project. Because it's no longer necessary for me to be standing at the lamp physically, and it's no longer a great angle for me to be working on, I've moved, and I'll be cutting to make sure I can get this a little tighter. I'm going to tape it down with a tape that is very close to the same color as the fabric. Later on, if I need to, I might go back in with some Tight Bond wood glue. You don't need wood glue that's as strong as that for this project, but it works for so many things. I just use it on everything. Similar to Ben Shellac, I think Type Bond 3 is one of those things that you don't have to use it on everything, but since it works, why not? Well, it's a little more expensive, is why not? I answered my own question. So here I am back with a before and an after, except that the lights aren't on, and that is really where the before issue shows up. It's worse on this one than it was on the previous, but no matter how bad yours is, as long as the structure of the frame for the shade is intact, you can repair it in the same way that I did. The difference between the glow is now more visible to you, so I don't have to try to explain what I'm talking about. In this one, my face has a warm light on it, as does the rest of me. On this side, my face is not getting any light other than what's ambient in the room, but my man, what a warm light on my hand. It's as you see, it's different. I know that this took a little longer than just buying a lampshade would, but I didn't have to buy a lampshade. And for 10 bucks, I really love the way it looks. It doesn't just look good enough. I think it looks really good. And one of the things that I did that I hadn't discussed before because I hadn't felt the need was the gaps that came up as I wrapped it were a little too obvious for my taste. It would have been fine, but I'm only an aspiring imperfectionist, so I couldn't resist the urge to improve it. The way I did that was just with glue, wood glue, and pins from a quilt. I'll bring the lamp a little closer to you so you can see what I'm talking about. You could use any pins, or you wouldn't necessarily have to. You could also just let there be a bit of a gap. It was here where I was seeing gaps show up, and I didn't like the way it looked, and that it wasn't that big of a deal. I would have lived with it as imperfect as it was, but as it is, I'm so happy with it. And I hope that I quickly finish this one as well, even though it will take away my opportunity to be a hand puppeteer, shadow puppeteer. Hand puppeteer is well, I'm neither of those things, but I did fun around and find out and practice being an imperfectionist. And I almost got there, but it's just too good. Y'all, I'm a bit of a fool. I didn't need to wrap this aluminum foil mummy style around the lampshades. I just needed to wrap it around this one side this way and then use tape as needed. I could have saved 5 entire minutes and several feet of tinfoil. That's okay. Moving on from my error. I also wanted to show you the difference between glued and unglued. This half here doesn't have any glue, and it's pretty loose and obvious that it should be glued down. This other half is glued down. You can see it looks better, as does the part on the reverse that was also glued down. There's one piece at the end there that was not. I'm feeling good about glue. I've decided to try to use gravity and time instead of so many quilting pins for this lampshade, and we're going to see how that turns out. It'll take less time, but I don't know that the final product is going to be as good. Let's learn. So that's a fabric wrap. Thank you for joining. Please click like. If you'd like to see other things, there I have a whole channel and stuff. And a lot of what I do is furniture. It's not directly home decor. It's not all super fast, but it can be fun to watch. And if you'd like to feel motivated by someone else trying a whole bunch of stuff, you're encouraged to check out the rest of my channel to fun around and find out. Until next time, good night. Good light.